everyone, Kris here for a Sentry box. I'm going to be unboxing KeyForge Call of the Archons. This is the starter box. We're going to unbox it today and have a look what's inside. So KeyForge is the new game from Fantasy Flight Games. Produced by Fantasy Flights, designed by Richard Garfield, the guy who did Magic the Gathering, and a few other games as well, obviously. I'll just get that off before I talk too much. And it's a unique deck game, which is something unique and novel, I suppose, in the current market. But we have the basic concept is that no two games are going to be the same. No two decks are ever going to be the same. There is a finite number of cards, but the combinations and the way it all works is going to be. Okay, I suppose we'll look at these decks. This is the easiest way to explain it. You buy a deck, and the decks are going to be unique. There's never going to be another deck with the same combination of cards. There might be similar ones using the same houses and some of the same cards, but we're never going to be the same deck twice. So in the starter box you do get two unique decks, and then what would appear to be your starter decks. So I'm going to crack these ones first. I believe these ones are the same in every box. So lots of tokens as well. Okay, so yeah, we have your power-up tokens, your stun tokens, two chain cards. And then if we look at the back of the deck, it's going to be the easiest way to figure out when it stops, because these backs are all unique with procedurally generated names as well. So, what have we got so far? So, like I said, the two decks that every starter is going to have is these two. So we have a Lagos, Sanctum and Untamed, and we have Bromnar, Dis and Shadows. I've not actually played with these decks yet, so it'll be interesting to look at them. Each deck will have a deck list of all the cards in it, and on the unique decks is a little QR code in the corner here, which lets you identify at tournaments and stuff like that, and do really interesting balance tracking and all of that kind of thing. Okay, so the goal of KeyForge is to forge keys. So these are your unforged key tokens. You flip them over. First person to 3 wins. Pretty simple. And to forge a key, you need to have 6 amber. So at the start of your turn, if you've got 6 amber, the first step of it is you get to forge a key. So you pick one of them. The colours are irrelevant, just makes them look pretty, and flip it over. Then we have the chain markers, which is the handicap mechanic. Because there's no deck building in the game, you have this thing called chains, and it affects your hand limit, basically how many cards you draw when you draw back up to your 6 cards. And it lets you go through, and you can talk about if you played the same deck a few times against the same opponent, you can bid for chains for handicapping. And as I mentioned that QR code earlier on, it looks like if a deck has a winning, or I shouldn't just say a deck, if a combination of cards seems to be overriding the meta and doing quite well, the chain mechanic can be introduced to give you a handicap and try and balance things that way. So that's pretty interesting. And we have some damage counters, and that's all of the tokens really. So I'm going to go through some of the basic cards. So these are the Untamed. You'll see you have the House faction in the top. You have the power of a card, if they have armor, what type of card it is, what deck it comes from specifically. It's important because it does mean that you'll never be able to sneak a card in, because it is names on the back, all of the backs are going to be different, and it is also on the front of a card as well. So even if you sleeve it and try and do some devious stuff like that, you're not really going to get away with it. So I'm going to, like I said, I've only just unboxed it. I can't really do a dummy hand, but I'll throw a few cards in and we'll go through the basic mechanics of play. How many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, like I've done this before. Okay, so the basis of KeyForge, let's make sure I'm not lying to you. We have the quick start rules here. So I want to make sure I don't lie when I go through the turn sequence. So the first part of a turn is forging a key, and that would be if you have the 6 amber, you return it to a pool and flip one of your unforged keys over. And that is the way you win the game. Then we choose a house. So looking at my houses here, we have Sanctum. So I've got 2 Sanctum cards, 3 Untamed, and 1 Logos. So what are we going to do? Let's have a look. We're going to go with Untamed first. So I choose a house, and that means that I cannot play these cards at once. I'm just going to put them to one side for now. So your chosen house, those are the cards you can play from, and you can play a card. So the next phase, in fact, is play, discard, and use cards of the chosen house. So there's no cost associated with any of these cards. So I would play it because this one's a creature. It goes into the battlefield, or the battle line, I should say. Okay, that was silly. We're going to do it the other way around. We've got a hunting witch. This sounds awesome. So this one has, and each time you play another creature, you gain an amber. So I'll play the Witch of the Eye, which gains me an amber because this one was already in play. Awesome, couldn't be better. And then I do have 1 card left, which is an action card, which is play. So play is a keyword here, and that means when you play a card. Pretty simple. Deal 1 damage for each friendly creature in play. You may divide this damage among any number of creatures. So I could play it, deal 2 damage to my opponent's creatures, potentially removing 1. Then they come into play exhausted. Then once I've finished that phase, I would ready the cards. I would draw back up to 6, so I played 2 cards, and then my opponent will get their turn. You store your amber on that bit there. I suppose I should kind of lay it out properly. Then my opponent would have their turn, and then I could either pick a different house, or I can pick Untamed again. If I pick Untamed again, these creatures now get to act because they're readied. So you can attack with a creature, which would do the power as damage to an enemy creature, and they would do their power as damage back, and the number of health your creatures have is equal to their power. So as an example fight, if my hunting witch were to fight the Witch of the Eye, it would deal 2 damage here, take 3 back, which would kill the hunting witch. The other thing you can do with a card is you can reap. So return a card from your... So reaping, each creature it reaps automatically gains you 1 ember. Then some cards like the hunting witch have a reap ability. Return a card from your discard pile to your hand. Luckily, I just discarded 1 because I did the hunting witch. So I'm still in Untamed. I've got an Untamed card in my hand, so I'm going to play it again. It comes out exhausted. But there isn't really the phase of playing cards and then acting with them. It all rolls into the third stage of a turn. So it's a fun mechanic. If something causes you to draw a card and you pull one of the same house, you can keep playing it and stuff like that. So I really like that mechanic to it. And obviously the choice of house is really important, as is like looking at your deck, trying to plan it. Another mechanic I should probably mention is another way of gaining ember. If your cards have this little ember symbol here, when you play that, you automatically gain the number of tokens. So I've seen them with like 2 or 3. It's a good way of boosting your ember reserves. And that's it. There's no milling. If you run out of cards, you just shuffle your discard pile back in and start again. And the game plays really quickly, really simple. Starter box wise, I'm pretty excited. You could skip it if you wanted to, but being that it comes with 2 decks and then the 2 starter decks, I don't see myself skipping it. I'm going to pick one up, and then I was going to grab a display of boosters, of decks, which is 12 decks, and run from there. Because I know in the Sentry box we are we're planning on buying decks back from people and having a secondary market for decks as well. So I don't feel like it's going to be too restrictive, but I want to make sure I get something interesting I like to play. I don't really miss the deck building. It's never been my style of game anyway, so I'm quite happy that that isn't involved in KeyForge. I know some people really enjoy that aspect, and I don't know if KeyForge will necessarily be for me. The most important part of your gaming is the actual deck creation. You probably won't enjoy this as much, but for me, I've tried to play deck building games, whether it was living card games, stuff like, or collectible card games with my wife, and she's happy to actually play the game. But once you get into the actual thinking about the game outside of it, there's never really been any interest. And I hope that KeyForge is going to be a good counter to that, because there isn't any. You don't need to think about the game at all when you're not playing it, which I kind of enjoy. So, yeah, that is the starter set for KeyForge. Get all the tokens, your different cards. I think it's the only way to get your power-ups and your stun cards. So stun, you put it onto a creature, and then the first time it would act, you remove it, and then it doesn't get to act. So it's nifty, but not too overbearing. They do say in the rules that if you don't have them, or if you run out during the game, you can just use a substitute token as long as it's easily identifiable. So you can use dice for damage and different coloured dice for your ember and stuff like that. It's not really required to get the starter box, but I think I'm going to pick it up anyway and go from there. And that is a KeyForge unboxing. So hope you enjoyed it, everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.